All right, time to dial in some mean high gain tones using the new Bias Amp Mini and also the Bias Amp 2 software. So let's get straight in and start playing around with this. We're going to go into the preamp section and let's have a look at the settings. Now straight away, you look at your tube stages. We're right in the middle on 3, so one of the most instant things you can do in terms of getting some more gain is cranking that guy. We'll just go to 4 at the moment, no need to be crazy. We might crank the gain a bit more though. Let's have a listen to that. That's already really good. Okay, so let's leave that for a moment. Now, one thing you want to get used to is how the pre-EQ and post-EQ affect the sound. Now, post-EQ is the overall EQ after you've modified your gain and other settings within the preamp. Whereas the pre-EQ is changes you can make to the sound before it actually goes into the gain circuit. So they do affect things in very different ways, and you can either have them bypassed or obviously you can get in there and tweak away. So straight away, we've already got the low pulled out before it gets driven, which is good. We might actually pull out a little more. Before we do that, let's have a look at what else is going on in the circuit. Tone stack is on British Crunch, which we will leave for the moment. Let's have a look at the power amp. Let's just push this right up for a moment and have a listen. So that type of gain that happens is very thick, and depending on how you do it, it's more, kind of gets a bit more mushy rather than a kind of modern, crunchy kind of a tone. So depending on what you're after, you can tweak that. I'm going to leave that where it's sort of sitting 3/4. We might just crank the distortion level in the power amp circuit. Have a quick listen to that. Again, that's doing that kind of thing where it's getting dirtier, but more in a squishy kind of compressed way. So let's just leave that. Now, one thing you definitely want to do in setting up these high gain tones within the Bias program is try all the different tubes, because in the power amp circuit especially, it makes a huge difference, not only to the gain, but probably more so to do with the actual EQ and the way it kind of feels on the guitar. So let's check that out. So within those different tubes, you may find something that you like the sound of in terms of EQ or how it feels, how squashed it is or not. So what you can do is then take that basic tone and then go back to the preamp and work on the gain. So it doesn't have to be the perfect sound in every way, but there just might be a tube that kind of sticks out to you. I'm going to stick with that because it's nice and crunchy, and I'm going to try and dial up something here that's a bit more of the organic kind of sound, but I really don't want it to get too mushy. So there's all these different ways that you can push and get a bit more gain out of the sound, and every one of them is going to affect it in a slightly different way. So you've got something as simple as the bias, which is just going to give you a little bit more of an edge, probably not something that's going to make a huge difference if you've already got a lot of gain happening. But certainly the overall distortion is going to make a big difference, and the number of tube stages is what's going to make the biggest difference. So why don't we just kick that up to 5, just because this is all about high gain, right? So you can hear that was a huge leap between 4 tube stages and 5. Really a totally different amp. Let's just hear 3 again for a second. pull that a little bit back here. I don't want to pull out all of the bottom end, but realistically, in either a recording sense or in a live sense, even though it might be fun to have all that bottom end thump, it's no good. You can't use it. Leave it for the bass player. Straight away, that just turns into mud. Any kind of palm muting kind of stuff you're going to do. Terrible. So yeah, we can keep that down pretty low. Okay, let's have a listen to what the different preamp tubes will do to the sound as well. So at the moment we're on the generic 12AX7 because that is what goes into almost every amp that you're trying to get some gain out of. But let's hear what the other tubes sound like. I like that one, 12BH7. Now, as you go through and do this, you're going to get that initial kind of effect of the tube, but then you're going to want to go in and adjust other things. So if one of the tubes that has a bit less gain has some kind of an EQ characteristic that you like, but less gain, then you could go in there and bump up the tube stages or hit the gain a bit more as well. So this, for example, 12AU7, I like that that's a little bit, I don't want to say cleaner, but it's a little clearer. You can hear a bit more of the crunch. Let's have a listen to that with an extra tube stage. I like that. Reminds me of early Dio or something like that. Let's just have a quick listen to the different tubes in the second part. Just hear that with 5. It's still got beef, but it's really, really articulate and clear. That really reminds me of the awesome 80s. If I wanted to now, I could play around with that EQ a little bit more. I'd say that's an awesome sound right there.